appealing spousal sponsorship. So sometimes people get married, and once they're married, they want that person to become a Canadian citizen or a permanent resident first. Now, part of that process is you sponsor your spouse, and you're now responsible legally for their finances and to make sure they have a place to live and all that stuff. And you're going to make that application to the federal government as part of their immigration process. Now, sometimes just getting married is not enough to get permanent residency for the person who wants to become, a permanent resident or Canadian citizen. They've married someone who is Canadian. Now, when that happens, they can be denied for a number of different reasons. The denial could be more of a typographical one. You didn't provide enough information, but there can also be more serious things that are involved. When you're dealing with a very minor kind of situation, you might only have to do a reapplication for the spousal sponsorship. So the appeal in itself is just like a reapplication, and the government looks at the old application, the new one, and the differences, and makes a determination about that. If you've done your application on your own, on the appeal or the resubmission, you probably want to hire a lawyer to make sure that it's done right. A lot of times when we do them for people, we see the original application and it's very deficient. There's a lot of things missing, or key things that are required to be filled out in a certain way are just done wrong, any number of reasons. Now, sometimes you have to go a step further because the appeal for sponsorship was denied for something more than just something typographical or more that's more significant. Now, that is done, and you can certainly do it on your own. However, it's more often done by an immigration lawyer. And more than that, there are some things that you just cannot appeal. So for instance, if the person who wants to be a Canadian citizen is the spouse of someone who's a citizen, and they are convicted of a very serious crime, then chances are their appeal is going to be denied. It would be unusual for it to be allowed. Also, if the person who is wanting to become a Canadian is been denied due to human rights violations or international rights violations, then that will likely stand. They're not going to let that person in. And lastly, situations where a person is involved with organized crime. The appeal tends to be very final, and they're not going to look at letting that person into the country. Understandably so, because the government wants to make sure that the people who are becoming Canadian citizens are upstanding people who are going to contribute in a very positive way to Canadian citizenship in life. Now, what is the process? You have 30 days from when you get your rejection letter to appeal the denial of a spousal sponsorship application, and then you start that appeal process right away. Again, you can hire a lawyer, and then they go through the process to make sure that the appeal is put forward so you have the best chance you can to have your spouse come live with you in Canada.